Donnie and Dolly, the team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
It is the morning after yet another disappointing loss by your Vancouver Canucks at home, 5-1 to the Florida Panthers. We are going to talk about that game right now with our guest, one of the nicest guys you will ever meet. Never yells, never screams, just a polite individual. Thomas Drance, the Vancouver Athletic. How you doing, Thomas?
Sorry, who's your guest?
Thomas Drance. You got a hearing problem?
Oh, okay. No, I just the description didn't match the guest.
Hey,
where's Donnie?
Donnie's under the weather, as they say.
Under the weather, or a little too scared to defend his Kirk McLean takes.
There's a lot.
Be the first time a legend backed down before the fight.
Hey, I do have a problem with what you said, though. That everyone that is in Kirk McLean's corner is 50 years old. You got to stop with that stuff. Donate. Don't do that.
And pretend that that's all I said.
Don't do that. You said everybody's supporting McLean. I go back to
actually hear it.
My
favorite.
Did you
actually hear it, Rick? Or are you reading it off Twitter?
And you're buddies with Roberto Luongo. You worked with the Florida Panthers, so we know your angle. We're not stupid, but don't say everyone's supporting Kirk McLean's 50 years old. And my favorite goaltender for the Vancouver.
It has the point was there's nothing to do with Kirk McLean. The point was it's a red herring argument. There is no connection between Kirk and whether or not the Canucks miffed it on retiring Luongo's jersey or not, which they did, clearly. Like, this was, make no mistake, Rick, a snub, right? There's no one else with this type of resume who's in the Ring of Honor, right? Like, he was a Hart Trophy finalist. He won a major NHL award. He's a Hall of Famer, first ballot. There's no one else among the 8 guys in the Ring of Honor who matched that description. Like, Pat Quinn's in the Hall of Fame, but he went in as a builder, not for his contributions as a defenseman on the Canucks. So there's no other player who's in the Hall of Fame. There's no other Ring of Honor player who won a major NHL award. There's no other Ring of Honor player who won a Hart Trophy nominee. All of the people who match Luongo's resume are they're hanging from the rafters. Their numbers are retired. The Canucks snubbed Luongo, and Luongo still took the high road in addressing the issue with the fans. The club should have taken that high road themselves.
Yep. No, you have a lot of valid points. I was going to say my favorite goaltender is still Richard Brodeur, but that's me.
Brodeur should be in the Ring of Honor.
I'm not, and I just love the 82 team because I was young enough to appreciate that time. And for me, it's Richard Brodeur. Okay, Thomas, let's forget about goalies the past. Let's talk about the current goalie situation with Thatcher Demko. Hurt last night, Thomas. This is not good. Your thoughts? It could be long term. I mean, this is not good if he goes out.
Yeah, it didn't look good to me. I sort of was wondering, he had to load so many times in quick succession. We know that there was a procedure on the knee area last off season. I sort of wondered because it wasn't like an overextension, right? It was like, it almost looked like maybe his knee had locked to me. I hear from Twitter anyway that you might be hearing that it's groin in any event, lower body injury, lower body injury of some kind.
Yeah.
It can all be connected, and the art of playing goal in the contemporary NHL. I mean, these are not stand-up goalies like Kirk McLean, right? These are martial artists, effectively. Really tough on the hips, really tough on the lower body, the groin area, the core, the knees. I mean, it didn't look good. It didn't hate to see him being helped off the ice. And look, one thing I've been saying, Donnie, like even when they were what, 0-5-2, I kept calling this team pretenders in any race for Bedard, right?
Yeah.
Partly that's based off the fact that I know he hasn't had the best 2 months of his career or anything, but let's be real here. Thatcher Demko is one of the 5 or 8 best puck-stopping goalies in the world.
Yeah.
Probably top 5. And, I looked at this team and I thought, man, this team's there's way too much talent here. There's way too much talent here for this team to be, in the sweepstakes for a top lottery odds or top lottery pick. And if Demko misses an extended stretch of time, Rick, I don't know. I don't know that logic holds. Like, one of the reasons I kept thinking this team's going to get 88 to 92 points was that I expected Demko would go out and steal months worth of games for this team at some point in the season. And if this is a minor injury and he's back soon, I still expect that'll happen. If he's actually out long term, I think that fundamentally changes what our expectations for this team should be. And that's no disrespect to Spencer Martin, who I think is totally capable of giving this team, average goaltending, maybe even a little bit better, even if he's stretched into a lot of work over a short period of time. It's just the heights Demko can hit. I mean, they're unlike what almost any other puck-stopping human being can do on the planet.
Thomas, when it comes to these last 2 home games, okay? So they follow up the road trip, everything's rosy, wine, all of that. They lose against the Caps, they lose last night. We're getting a lot of this in the inbox about how it's not just the losses, it's just this meh. Doesn't feel like there's a ton of care. I hate saying that because it's a professional athlete, I know. But you have all this pomp and circumstance last night, 3 Hall of Famers on the ice, all of that. And it just kind of was bleh. Like, how do you explain them looking so meh on the ice with these losses, especially after the road trip?
Well, look, I'm going to say something, and I don't think people are going to like it. But to me, I think about the Washington game, I think about the Florida game, and I think, what's the difference? What's the difference between the Canucks in those games and the Canucks in some of the games they won over the course of the past 2 weeks? Like, all of those games were 5-4 wins.
Yeah.
The problem to me wasn't the goals against, it's that the Canucks didn't get their 5 goals.
Yes.
Right? Like, this team, I don't know that this team's like effort or structure or ability in the wins differs all that fundamentally from their form in the losses. It's just how it looks because of the result. It's how it feels emotionally because of the result. Guys, sorry, one sec. My dog's just trying to play with me. It's really annoying me. Go to place, buddy.
You've been
I literally can't anymore.
Drance has been battling this entire interview. You've done quite well, actually, Thomas.
I know.
Oh, wow.
Anyway,
Wow.
this
What's
is
that?
my
That looks
buddy.
like Rick. Is that Kermit?
Sorry.
Kermit the
No,
Frog?
it's a frog made of more durable stuff that my dog can't chew through. Anyway, he's very sweet. He's just being annoying. Okay, so regarding, like, I just look at this and I see a consistent picture. I don't see a team that is in the position where they're sort of one group when they're winning and one group when they're losing, and if only they could replicate that. I see one consistent picture, and it's a team that surrenders far too many chances against, can't control play 5-on-5, and relies on one of either overheated goaltending or overheated finishing luck to win games. Like, for me, that's all they've got, and that's not a sustainable formula. I know internally there was a sense after the Washington game, like, hey, those things happen sometimes when you get off the road. But I think the loss last night was more disturbing. To follow up to that Washington game with what they did against the Panthers, I think that really bothered a lot of key Canucks decision makers, as you can understand, that it would. But, for me anyway, it's just not surprising. Like, this is who this team is. This is who this team has been for 3-4 years. Their defining quality is not that they're bad and it's not that they're great. It's that they're wildly, maddeningly inconsistent. And, upper management might call that structure. I would call it, a lack of two-way IQ, a lack of personnel ability. But nonetheless, you reach the same point, which is that this is a team not constructed, or at least not playing in a way that sustainably wins games in the NHL.
So you mentioned those decision makers inside Rogers Arena, Thomas. What's the path ahead here? Has the temperature totally cooled on Boudreau? If we find out that Demko's gone for a month, is that going to change? Like, are they just going to basically ride this out? Like, what are the moves ahead for the organization in the somewhat short term, I guess you could say?
Checking in on it today, I don't get the sense that we're in imminent press conference watch mode, to be totally honest with you, gentlemen. I mean, that could change, but the sense that I had this morning anyway was that patience reigns, that the club would like to figure out how to go forward with their current personnel and how to get to playing the right way under Boudreau's watch. But there are clear frustrations that doesn't seem to be happening, that the usage for young players seems to be all over the place, that, guys like Jack Rathbone and Vasily Podkolzin go down to the American League, and the organization is far more comfortable at the moment thinking that, hey, they're going to learn to play the right way down there than they are up at the NHL level. And no one in the organization wants to be in that spot, considering how this club needs to be developing players if they're going to, get an awful lot better in the next 2-3 years and take advantage of Pettersson and Quinn Hughes's primes. So, I don't get the sense that anything's imminent there, even as frustration builds. The sense I got asking around this morning, I really think this club's plan remains consistent. I really think that the fundamental view is that if they can bring in better young players and clear out some of the dead weight money on the books, that they can reload relatively quickly. I do know that there's a sense that this is maybe, it feels like, looks like, I think management realizes that this might be a longer term project than they'd originally thought. But, I still think they're going to look to do those types of things as opposed to an all-out rebuild or a punt on this season or changing the coach quickly. Not to say that it won't happen in the very near or in the near future, but I don't think that's an imminent consideration for the club at the moment, at least not today. And so that sort of leaves us where we are, looking ahead and thinking, okay, if the club's going to clear the decks, if they're going to find the sort of money they're going to need to re-sign Höglander, Bear, and Kuzmenko,
Horvat.
most importantly.
Forget about Bear and Höglander. Those are small contracts.
Why would I forget about Bear and Höglander?
Because the two big ones, Thomas, are Horvat and Kuzmenko.
Do you see a path? Do you see a path to this organization keeping Horvat at this point, Rick?
Okay, but are they not going to?
Do you know something I don't?
No, but do you honestly think they're not going to try? They have to try.
I think there's a dawning recognition.
Okay.
I think there's a dawning recognition that it's unlikely to happen. I think everyone knows at this point that it's unlikely to happen and that Horvat's likely to be a top trade chip ahead of the trade deadline. I mean, I think that's becoming increasingly clear to the public. I think that's becoming increasingly clear to both sides. Do you disagree with that?
No, but I still, as of early this week, was told both sides want to get it done, Thomas. You give me the smirk, but I still believe. I was told very nicely.
What I'm hearing.
Well,
it's not matching what I'm hearing later this week, Rick. I really think there's a dawning realization that this is going to be difficult to get done. Now I'm saying on a wish list. Is Bo Horvat still on it? Sure. But in terms of realistic planning, is there an expectation that they're going to be able to get it done? That I'm less certain about. I would say the situation, whenever I look into it, and certainly over the course of the latter part of this week when I was looking into it, Rick, felt pretty pessimistic on both sides.
Well, here's the thing, though, Thomas. Bo Horvat right now, top 5 in goals for, top 10 in faceoffs, and top 10 in ice time for forwards. If you're going to get rid of the guy, okay, but if you're going to get rid of the guy, you better get a nice centerman in return, but they might go around and get the top 4 defensemen. You never know. So
you look through the history of these types of trades, it's usually 3 assets, right? Like whenever an expiring centerman, and most of them aren't Horvat quality, but like Duchesne, Kevin Hayes, Paul Stastny, Martin Hanzal, like dating back to 2017. What do these players cost as rentals at the deadline? A first and 2 other assets. I think that at some point, this organization's going to find that tempting, in my view. And I just think this one's going to be a really hard deal to get done.
Thank you for your time.
Eventually, Taylor will have to face the music, Thomas. Just remember that.
Yeah.
No,
next Friday.
I'm obviously just kidding. Donnie, I respect Donnie's takes, and I was mostly just trying to hype this up for this battle royale, which we never got to do. So
pay-per-view event.
It goes.
Did you give her?
But make sure don't radio me on your show, Rick. Make sure to listen to the clip before you call me out for a Taj tweet.
I saw the clip. You were ripping everyone that was 50 years old for liking, Kirk McLean. That's not right.
Not for liking him. Kirk McLean's legacy is secure, and he deserves to be in the Ring of Honor. He's actually probably the most decorated of the Ring of Honor level players, to be totally honest with you. But the idea that Luongo's number being retired or not should have anything to do with McLean, to me, that's a take for the over 50 set.
Have a nice day.
Love you, Ricky. Bye.
All right.
See you, Tom.